We've created our first sequence. We've got all of our media imported into our project. Let's finally get this boat on the water and start editing. Now in my project panel, I'm actually going to switch this over to icon view because I actually want to see what I'm selecting. Let's double click into footage and double click into Jackalope. And by the way, if you're wondering why this is called Jackalope, down here in Australia near Melbourne is a very, very modern hotel called Jackalope. Their mascot is kind of a combination of a jackrabbit and an antelope, a jackalope kind of creature. Me and my wife stayed at that hotel a little while ago, and the clips in this folder are from that particular trip. So that's why it's called Jackalope. Again, if this is a little bit too small, I can actually right click onto this header here, bin Jackalope, and select to undock that panel. And that's just going to pop this up as a little window, so I can just make this a little bit bigger right here on the side. Now there's some tools on the left side of the timeline. We will look at those ones in a later lesson. So for now we can just cover that up and just make this window a little bit bigger. It just gives us a little bit more overview over the clips that we have to work with. And in order to pull any media from your project panel or any of your bins onto your timeline, let's click on this corridor ceiling.mp4 and drag that into the sequence. And you should see two layers. One represents the video track of this clip that we're dragging in, and the one at the bottom represents the audio track. Now, as I move up and down, I'm going to change where I'm going to place this audio and video material. Right now, this is going to be dropped on video track 1 and audio track 1. If I drag this up, that will be video track 2 and audio track 2, video 3 and audio 3. And again, this is useful for layering audio and video on top of each other. We'll deal with all of that later. Let's just drop it on video track 1 and audio track 1. Let's just click on it to select it. And we've now added our first clip into our sequence. Just a super quick side note, if at the point of dragging and dropping a clip from your project panel onto your timeline, you get this pop-up here from Premiere Pro warning you of a clip mismatch. That's just Premiere Pro trying to be helpful because it says that the clip that you've dropped from your project panel onto your timeline doesn't match the sequence settings in terms of its resolution, its frame rate, the pixel aspect ratio, or the audio sample rate. And Premiere Pro is now offering, well, do you want to change the sequence settings to match the properties of the clip you dropped on, or do you want to keep the existing settings that you've set up when you created the sequence? Now, if you're not quite sure and you're just editing through some family footage or gameplay videos or anything like that, you may want to just choose to change sequence settings so you're guaranteed that that clip that you're dropping into matches exactly onto the sequence. If you're following along with all of the footage provided for this course and we've already created and set up our sequence the way we wanted it to, you can simply click on Keep Existing Settings and then you can just continue on with the course. But now, back to the main meal. Now, the program monitor or the preview monitor at the top still just shows black because it only shows what is underneath that timeline indicator here, this blue cursor. Now, you can click at the top of this cursor and start grabbing it and scrubbing through your project, and the moment this cursor goes over your clip, you'll see what's in there, and you'll also hear the audio for that. Now, it's a little bit small, but you can easily zoom in on the timeline simply by holding down Alt or Option on the Mac and scrolling up on your mouse wheel. So you're going to zoom in. You can also scroll down to zoom back out. You can also use this little slider here at the bottom to move left and right and kind of take these little circles in to zoom in and out. Now, in order to move forward and backwards, without holding down any key, just scroll up or down on the mouse wheel to navigate around. And again, you can just move this slider around if that's what you want to do. Now, these layers here, this audio track and this video track, they're quite narrow, and you can actually click on these horizontal bars and drag this up. Same with the audio, and just drag that down to make those clips a little bit bigger. And you can now see that the video track actually gives you a little preview of the first frame of this clip. And you can also see the audio waveform of the actual audio that plays as part of this clip. Now, in order to play back your timeline, make sure the timeline is selected. So it's got this little blue highlight here. Just click into it, press space, and press space again to stop it. So space is start and stop playback. And underneath the program monitor, you'll also find playback controls. And same thing, you can just click on play and click on stop to stop the playback. I'll zoom back out a little bit. And now you can make all of these tracks here bigger or smaller to your heart's content. You can also hold down Shift and scroll up or down on your mouse wheel to do that just a little bit more easily. And again, over on the right hand side, you'll find this little slider here that you can use to do the same thing. There's no right or wrong, just do this any way you want. You can also set up keyboard shortcuts for zooming in and out and moving around. It will just make your life a whole lot easier. Let's zoom out a little bit by holding down Alt Option and scrolling down on the mouse wheel. And let's grab another clip. Maybe we'll grab this dramatic moon.mp4 clip. Again, drag and drop that into the sequence. And again, it's got two clips, a video and an audio track. Let's just place this right here at the end. And let's scrub through. Now, there's nothing between these two clips. There's actually just a gap. But the moment we're over that dark moon, you can see that here. And it's actually got a bit of dark borders on the side just because this framing, the size of this video doesn't quite match the size of our sequence. And we'll deal with that a little bit later. Let's zoom back in. And now you can simply take this dramatic moon clip and just drag this over to the left hand side and snap it to the end of the first clip so that it transitions from one directly into the other. If I move this back over to the right hand side, you can also at any point in time right click into any gaps in your sequence and select to ripple delete. That is going to delete the gap and move all clips that follow it inwards to kind of snap them over to the left hand side. And that's really useful if you have a whole bunch of clips after this one and you just want to kind of collapse those gaps. Just right click them. So for example, here at the beginning, let's right click at the start, select to ripple delete. It's going to delete that gap and move all of the clips that came after that over to the left hand side. So now it's nicely snapped to the left hand side. By the way, if your clips don't snap properly to each other, make sure you have snapping enabled. Up here at the top of the timeline, there's this little magnet icon, or S is the shortcut key. So make sure you enable snapping. If that doesn't happen, that's the reason why. Also, what might happen is that when you drag a clip from your project window into the sequence, you may only get the video track or only the audio track, even though there is both audio and video on that clip. That can happen if in your timeline, here you've got targeting enabled for video and audio. You're telling Premiere Pro bring in both the video and the audio track. If I click on this A1 here, it says disable targeting for the audio track, and I now grab this dramatic moon clip and I drag this into my sequence, you'll notice I only have the video track. I don't have the audio track, and that's because targeting isn't enabled. So let's click that again, select this dramatic moon click, press delete to delete that. So just, it's just one of those gotchas in Premiere Pro. Now let's look at how we can start to arrange these clips, move them around, trim them in and out, and start getting into the very basics of editing in the next lesson.